So in Scrum, from your courses, you would have learned that there are 3 roles in Scrum, right? There is the product owner role, there's a development team role, and there is a Scrum Master role. But you're like, well, where is the BA role, Karaleise? Well, there isn't any. The Scrum Guide, which is the authority on Scrum, and Scrum is just one part of Agile, as you know. There are many different types of Agile. There's Kanban, there's Scrum, there's XP, there's all these other things. But the ones that have become more the leaders in the industry is Scrum and Kanban. So let me break down these 3 roles for you. Even if you're not working with them today, as you're getting more into Agile, these are the people that you should be working with, right? So product owner. The product owner is a role that has a final say in what it is that we're going to build. So this role, this person needs to be so intimately knowledgeable about the customer, about the client, they can determine the priority of what we work on. The product owner could be anybody in the organization, because on the Scrum team, we don't really follow hierarchical structures. We don't follow what the title that you have at the organization. So you could be titled CIO, but on the Scrum team, you're just a developer. You could be titled VP of product, but on the Scrum team, you're just a product owner, right? So we don't follow in a linear way the titles that people have in a traditional organization. We form a Scrum team, and that Scrum team has these roles, and it doesn't matter what your official title is in the organization. Because typically on a Scrum team, you have tasks that you have to do. You have all kinds of stuff in the backlog. You have enhancements, you have new features, you have roadmap items, you have things that we want to do. We can't do them all at once. So who's going to determine which one is more important than the other one? That role is a product owner role. So they should have such a good idea of the entire landscape that they can make a decision as to, okay, let's do this first and then this second. Let's put this lower and then put this higher, right? That's what they mainly do. So in some organizations, the product owner and the BA are the same. In some organizations, the product owner is a little bit higher in terms of the hierarchy. They have more visibility to senior level management than the BA. In some organizations, they're working at the same level. So it really depends. The dev team could be anybody who individually contributes to the team. So as a BA, you're not on the technical side or the business side. You're kind of in the middle. So you should be talking to technical team, but you don't need to be technical. And you should be talking to the business team and understanding what the business wants, right? So if you had to pick a side, it would be more on the business side, but you definitely need to straddle both of them so that you can communicate across both types of teams. So the dev team comprises of anybody who is individually contributing. So in the dev team, typically you'll have your developers. Developers can be front-end developers, back-end developers. Sometimes we call them full stack. Full stack is when you can do either front or back end. Mobile developers, so you can have Android developers, iOS developers, and so on. So that's your development team. If you had a large company, right now your company is small, but if you had a large company, you'd have like software architects in here as, you know, the same bucket as developers, software architects, developers who are actually writing code. You'd have QA engineers, these are quality assurance people who test what it is that you've built. So when you write the requirements, developers write code to build it, somebody else got to test it. Because if you write the requirements and then you test it, maybe sometimes you miss things because you're too close to it. So in large organizations, we have so many different things, they'd rather have a separate person test it. In small organizations, it's probably going to be you, right? So the QA, the developer, the SA, which is a software architect, sometimes you have a UX designer in here making the UI and the UX designs if you work with a larger team. And sometimes you have like leadership in here, like for example, dev lead or chief, information officer or whatever. So sometimes you have leadership who is also mixed in as dev team. And then you have the third role, which is the Scrum Master. So the Scrum Master is like the coach. He's not a project manager. Don't confuse the two, not the same. The Scrum Master, his or that person's role, male or female, is to, number one, is to clear roadblocks. So as you're talking about things that you're building, you're going to come up with some kind of problem. You're going to either not have the data for you to test it, you don't have the API to call, you're not sure about some of the requirements. There's always stuff. We're humans. There's always problems. So the Scrum Master's job is to clear the roadblocks. Or you might say, Carly, so why don't you just have a project manager? Well, the Scrum mindset, the way we work in Scrum, is not the same as how we work in Waterfall. It's not the same as how we work with project managers. Typically, project managers, they have this project, right? If they get a project, it has a budget. It has a finite time. It has how much $1 million allocated to the budget. It has all these resources. We're going to have all these roles on the project. And we just write requirements at the beginning. This is everything we're going to build. And when you're in a project team, if you want to meet with the project manager about something, they might put meetings on your calendar every week. They have a meeting, a sit down, a status update meeting. Tell us what you've done. Tell us what you're blocked. Tell us what's going on. But this normally happens like every week or sometimes even twice a week, which is great. But God forbid you have a problem outside of those times. Trying to get time on these people's calendar is like a nightmare. If you have a problem that happened, let's say you just had the meeting today and an issue came up right after the meeting and you want to meet with them again, God forbid, you got to wait until the next scheduled meeting, right? So you will sit with your problem for a long time. You could run around trying to talk to people and try to get different opinions, but the person who makes the decision, sometimes you can't get them because they're busy in other meetings. So the project paradigm doesn't work for software. It leads to people delivering late, and sometimes what you deliver is not what they want.
So how do you handle that when, let's say, something comes up and getting them back together again? How are you able to do that?
That's why we're not doing project management. We're doing Scrum.
Okay.
So Scrum is the answer to that. Is that now we have a Scrum team. But Scrum is the answer to this paradigm problem with project management, meaning we no longer have to wait for you to find time on your calendar. We're not doing that no more. We're not even, because the project team pulls people from different departments and form a project team, and that team is there for the life of the project. When the project ends, they go back to their departments and then the team disappears. But we form a Scrum team, which is a different concept, which is you are a part of the Scrum team. This is what you do. This is it. You're not disappearing after the project is done. This is the Scrum team. And what we do is we have these events, which we'll talk a lot about in a minute, that are regularly happening. So we have one particular event, which is our daily Scrum. The daily Scrum gives you that 50-minute window every single day of the sprint to talk about whatever problem you have. So I don't have to go fight to find time on your calendar. You should be showing up to the Scrum meeting every day for 15 minutes. And I can tell every developer can say what it is that they're blocked on. And the Scrum Master, as opposed to the project manager, the Scrum Master is the one going out there to solve the problem. So we don't need a project manager. We don't need to fight to come on your calendar. We don't need to have twice a week meetings and sit with the problem for days. We're not doing that on the Scrum team. That is the reason why, one of the reasons among many others, that Scrum is a more efficient process for adapting quickly to change and getting things out faster. That's why lots of companies have gone Agile. Let's have an overview of some of the benefits that we're going to realize when we're going to Scrum. And it's important for you to understand this so that when you get into it yourself, you understand why you're doing what you're doing. You're not just doing something that somebody told you this is how it's done. We don't like to follow prescribed processes in Scrum. We don't want to get a book that says this is the step, follow this and follow that. That's not how we operate. And as an analyst, you don't want to operate that way either. You have to come to the job and analyze how this project is working, how this product, what makes sense for this type of product, and build the systems and processes that make sense for that particular product. And if in the process of doing that, if it doesn't work, you throw it away and you change and you do something else. We are very, very adaptive to change, and it's not a set in stone, and this is how it works. One of the problems, the traditional way that we do work, like in large companies or even small companies, is that somebody at the top comes up with the rules and tells you this is what you do and this is how it works. And then you at the bottom, you're bending backwards like a pretzel, trying to fit into what somebody else created. But the problem is the person who's creating often isn't working in it. So when management decides, oh, we're going to do this now, we're going to have this new process, that's nice. and it looks good on paper, it looks good on presentation decks, but the person who's on the ground, they struggle with it because they didn't come up with it, and they don't attach themselves to it. It's like, oh, they said do it, so I just work here, I'm just going to do that. What we try to do in Scrum is we try to let the team come up with their own process. The team determines how they want to work. They're the owners of it. So if you come up with something that works for you and also accomplishes the goal that the company has, then it's going to be more successful because you own it. You feel like you came up with it, as opposed to some C-level executive just throw it down and say, do this. So Agile's benefit, and I'll reveal different benefits as we go along in this consult, is one, we don't have to wait on this project manager to be available. So we can get things done faster. And two, the processes that we use within the Scrum team is for the Scrum team and built by the Scrum team. So we can be more efficient, faster, because we're doing our own thing that we all agree to do. And this is how we're going to work together, right? We come up with our own ways of working that we own. And then we tell upper management what we're doing. We don't wait for them to tell us how to do it or what to do. We tell them what we're doing, and it works out very well. So it's a flip of what you're used to in traditional working environments. So these are the 3 roles that it has. It doesn't have any other role. So what happens is people who are going out to hire, they hire product owners, they hire developers, and they hire Scrum Masters. And they completely forget that they need a BA until they start the project. And they're like, well, somebody got to write the stories, and somebody got to figure out the elicitation, and they're like, oh, I think we need another role. And that's when they figure out they need a BA role. Sometimes they'll try to have the PO act as the BA, but if they don't have the skills of business analysis, they're going to find that they're going to struggle because they don't know how to elicit requirements properly. They don't know how to write documentation properly, at least in the way that we write it as BAs for user stories. So people struggle a lot because they don't know they need a role called a BA. The BA is the glue that keeps all these things going together. The BA is the one that has the most knowledge about the detail. So you have these 3 roles: product owner, development team, and Scrum Master. The product owner is focused on building the right thing. They're making the decision as, is this the right thing to build? Are we prioritizing the right things, right? The development team's focus is on build it the right way. Is the thing that we're building being done properly? Like, how are we building it? The how is what they focus on, right? You don't want to build something there. When you're writing code, if you've been exposed to coding, you can do things any different kind of way. But if you do it this way, it's a longer time, takes more energy and effort, and it's harder to maintain because now you have to go do all kinds of stuff, spaghetti code. Or you can do it this way, it's more expensive, but it's streamlined and we can build on top of it. You don't want to build in something I don't call it, it's called tech debt. I have a whole video on tech debt, which is because you're trying to meet a short deadline, you do shortcut things in the code. And then what happens is, over time, those little shortcuts that you took, it builds up. And now it's like you're building a house and the foundation is broken. Yeah. So you can't improve on it because all of the stuff you did was hacks along the way. Hack here, hack here, hack here. Shortcut. Everything is like a mess. So now for you to build a new thing, you can't pour new wine into old skins, right? So the whole infrastructure starts getting messy. And it happens a lot when you don't have the structure. It's hackery. so you have to do proper things so you can grow, so you can build on top of it, so you can enhance it later, right? So building it right is what the development team is focused on. And then the Scrum Master is focused on, can we build it fast? Which means, how quickly can we get through the sprint? How quickly can we get all of these things that we committed to actually done? And the way they get it built fast is they clear the roadblocks that the people have in between. So as the sprint starts and the developer says, I don't have this, I can't reach here, I can't find this, I don't have the data over here, I don't have access over here. This Scrum Master is going through and he's relieving the developer of any problem solving. Right. All the developer needs to worry about is writing the code. Clear everything out of his way, because what used to happen is, I'm a developer, I have to write code, but I have a problem with my data set. Now I have to go find the database administrator and ask them about getting this access to this database, getting this a database schema, then putting it over here. And so my time is being eaten up doing all of these stuff when I should be focused on writing code. But the Scrum Master is there to clear all of that roadblock for you, so you don't have to worry about solving it. The solution will come to you. You just need to focus spend all of your time making sure the code that you're writing is good. That's it. And that's why they become more efficient.